Hey everybody, it's Dr. Chris back with you guys for our 12 Minutes to Health. I just wanted to take a second to say thank you for joining us each and every week and just making that commitment to being healthier and learning as much as you can. It's fun for me to get to dig into the research so that I can pass on the information and understand it better myself, when it comes to eating well, moving well, and thinking well. I love that I get to provide the best research for you guys by digging through the peer-reviewed trials, right? So that you get that unbiased, evidence-based approach to what it takes to actually be healthier. I was having a conversation today just about health and how it takes all three, right? To eat well, move well, and think well. Because our big thing that we're trying to accomplish is we're all trying to reach homeostasis, okay? And homeostasis and health are used kind of interchangeably for me. To be healthy, you have to be close to homeostasis, as close as you can get. And we had the conversation, if I have the perfect diet and I'm exercising like I should be, but I'm chronically stressed out, can I reach homeostasis? Can I achieve health? And I don't think you can. In fact, the research shows you can't, because you've got to have all three. There's got to be a balance between eating well, moving well, and thinking well. Just like, you could have stress-free life and exercise all the time, but if you only eat cheeseburgers, you're not going to be healthy. And that one's a little easier to process maybe than the stress one is, or whatever it might be. But that's why we research and look at the research that's available for you guys on all three of these topics so that you can truly be healthy. So we're going to dig into the research. Like I said, I appreciate you guys being here. Make sure you get your questions answered and everything. A lot of you I know about Tuesday nights in our clinic too. We have people come into the clinic to watch every Tuesday night, and that way you can be there with the doctor and write down some questions, enjoy some refreshments that we have for you and things, but most importantly, get your questions answered so that you have a better understanding of how to keep yourself and your family healthy. So looking at tonight's research, it was a review of the literature done by Bengmark et al., and it's called Immunonutrition, Role of Biosurfactants, Fiber, and Probiotic Bacteria. Probiotic bacteria has really come on the health scene in the last, decade or so. And there's a lot of research that's starting, but there's a lot more to be done too. So this study kind of looks at what research is available that we have now. What does it say? Is this a huge benefit for us? And how do we get enough? How much is enough? What do we need to look at? So it kind of goes through and answers all those questions for us. And personally, I know ever since I've started taking a probiotic, I just feel better, right? I have less inflammation, which this research goes into and why that's happening. I have less joint pain. I don't feel like I'm ever getting sick. Like my immune system feels stronger. And that's just on a personal basis, right? But the research tonight actually goes into that and why that is. And a big part of it is because bacteria and us, we kind of came about together. We have what we call a symbiotic relationship. It means they benefit from us, the bacteria, and we as humans benefit from them. We provide them with shelter, a home, an environment conducive to them being alive and continuing on, right? And for us, as you'll see tonight, they give us a ton of different benefits. So one of the biggest things that I took out of this study tonight has to do with our gut wall, okay? And I look at the gut because it's very important. It's a big part of our immune system. About 70% of our immune system resides in our gut. It starts there. Pathogens are introduced there. And when you look at inflammation in general, which I believe, and the research agrees, to be kind of the root cause of most diseases that we face in our current environment and in Western diet and everything else that causes inflammation, that all starts in our gut. And there's been more and more research about leaky gut, which I'm sure you've heard of at this point. Whether you understand fully what that means or not is a different story, but I'm sure that you've heard about it because we look at all of our autoimmune disorders and just the chronic inflammation that I was talking about, systemic inflammation over the entire body. A lot of that is coming from our gut. And the reason that happens is because our gut is the cell wall is only a cell layer thick. It's not very thick, and those cells need to be bound together tightly to regulate everything that's coming through there. Well, that binding effect is what bacteria bind through there, okay? And they do a couple other things, which we'll talk about in a second, but they bind to the gut wall keeping those cells packed together so that things aren't leaking through. Large proteins, sugars, glucose, things like that that leak into the blood and start to cause this systemic chronic inflammation that I was talking about. So what the study showed from the research that they've done is there's certain bacteria that actually bind to the gut wall. And they feed there, and they help protect against pathogens there, and they help reduce the inflammation and things like that there, but they don't allow for leaky gut. So the gut wall binding of the bacteria, certain bacteria bind. There's trillions of different types of bacteria. What they found is that about 500 of these different bacteria they've studied actually are ones that bind and are most beneficial to us. And that brings me to this point about dairy, because I get this question all the time. When I talk to a new patient, a friend, a family member, I'm constantly reinforcing you've got to get a good quality source of bacteria. And they always come back to me with, well, I eat a lot of yogurt. That's what I hear all the time. And I say, okay, and I understand that. But here is why that's not helping you to the level that you think it is. One, yogurt is a dairy product, and dairy is inflammatory to our system. Okay? It just is. That's what the research says. We are a different species than a cow and not designed. There's a whole bunch that goes into it, but we're not designed to have their milk. Their milk is designed to take a calf from a small calf to a 1,000-pound creature, right? That's not for us. We're just built different. And another thing is the bacteria that does occur in yogurt, and this is what they said in this research article, and that is found in other dairy products as well, is bacteria that passes through. It doesn't bind to the gut wall. So we don't see the benefits that I'm going to talk about after this from a dairy-based bacteria that we do from a bacteria that's grown in a different medium, typically like an algae-type medium, to where the bacteria is more conducive to what we need to eat. Because, I mean, if you look at our ancestors, our Stone Age ancestors, they didn't have refrigerators, they didn't have, processed foods and things like that where they were getting rid of bacteria. So the bacteria was just rampant, coming from species that were eating certain things to create their bacterial flora that we then were able to benefit off of some of that bacterial flora by eating what we ate. And, sometimes rotting carcasses giving us more and more bacteria. And we're just so clean now. And we got tricked into thinking through the research that was actually just marketing that the bacteria found in dairy was great for us, when in fact it's not binding to our gut wall and it's not helping us like it needs to. When we do get the good bacteria that binds to the gut wall, some of the other benefits is that it synthesizes vitamin K2. Right? Okay, so the bacteria actually synthesize vitamin K2 that the rest of the cells can use, and it breaks things down. B vitamins. Most of our B vitamins that are water soluble are created by the bacteria in our body. And I have this talk with patients a lot of times too, because they'll say, well, I was told I'm over 40, 45, 50, fill in the number, that I need to be taking a B complex because my energy's been low and it's because I don't have enough B vitamins. And I say to these patients, that could be the case. Maybe you don't have enough B vitamins, but why? And they always look at me confused. They say, well, I don't know. That's why I'm going to take more. And then I explain to them that if they have the right levels of bacteria, that you actually create the B vitamins that we need. And that's one of the side effects that personally I've seen, is that when I'm consistent with my bacterial intake, with my probiotic, I actually have more energy because I'm making more B vitamins and they're usable. And it also synthesizes short-chain fatty acids, right? I talked about the gut wall. The cells that make up the gut wall, the cells that make up any part of our body, the wall of that cell is fatty acids. It's lipids that make that up, right? So if we have the right short-chain fatty acids being synthesized by the bacteria, those cell walls are going to stay closer together, eliminating inflammation and leaky gut and things like that. We break down protein with bacteria. Without bacteria, we cannot break protein down like we need to into the amino acids that are usable by all of our different cells, right? Muscle cells come to mind when we talk about protein, but that's got to be broken down in order for our muscle cells to use it correctly. And that is one of the roles of a probiotic bacteria. And then the last one is because of how much it protects the gut, creates K2, B vitamins, short-chain fatty acids, breaks down proteins, breaks down fiber. All this stuff is because the effect of that is lowering the overall chronic systemic inflammation. And that is helping a lot when we look at certain diseases. Now, that doesn't mean using probiotics as the one-size-fits-all, this cures this disease, this cures this disease, right? That's how medicine works. And another important thing on medicine, they've actually shown that a lot of that breaks down our cell wall in our gut wall, and bacteria are even more important to replace at those times. And they've been looking more and more at bacterial therapy versus antibacteria, because the antibacteria is causing a lot of problems with our guts, the antibiotics, right? So and inflammation from that point on. And the bacteria kind of brings that all back in. So we've got to have a good supply of bacteria to lower the inflammation and live in congruency with our species. It's part of eating well. We look at the immune system. I told you about 70% of the immune system is found inside the gut, right? The reason that bacteria are so important to that is, one, for the inflammation that I've talked about and binding and keeping the leaky gut from happening. But another thing is bacteria needs to eat. Good bacteria needs to eat, bad bacteria needs to eat. Viruses need certain foods, bacteria fights for those foods. So when we get the good bacteria in there that's eating all this food, it doesn't leave food for these pathogens that come in. It doesn't leave food, and it doesn't leave binding sites. The gut's not leaky, so it's harder for viruses and bacteria to get in through the gut wall. And that's why it is so important for our immune system that we have that. And the study goes on to show like how bacteria, good probiotic bacteria, actually fight so much for food and binding sites that it eliminates a lot of illness from happening, because these bacteria and viruses and things just can't survive. It's not conducive to them because we have so much good bacteria doing what the good bacteria needs to. So hugely important with what we're facing right now, as we come into the COVID-19 stuff and flu seasons and everything else, right? It all plays there. There's always pathogens out there, but our body can defend us against that kind of stuff if we give it the right environment, and a probiotic bacteria is a big part of that environment. And then lastly, the picture makes me laugh, but our consumption levels now. I talked earlier about how we have refrigeration, we have chlorination, we have pasteurization, we have all these different things that actually eliminate bacteria. We take in about 1 million times less than our Stone Age ancestors did on a daily basis. Like, we're talking about number of bacteria cells. We're 1 million times less than they were, which is a huge deal. And we're seeing a lot of sickness that they never dealt with. We're seeing a lot of inflammation that they didn't have, a lot of just overall decrease in health that they didn't have. And it's not just because of bacteria, right? We don't move as much as they moved. We don't have to. We sit at desks. We do that kind of stuff, right? We don't have to eat based off of nature. We have processed foods. We have McDonald's, Chick-fil-A, the fast food, I name all of it. So there's a lot of stuff that plays into it, but the bacteria is a big one because we don't get nearly the bacteria we used to, and that's become a big issue for us. So probiotic bacteria is a huge deal. There's a ton of information on it. That's why we keep all this information in our office. All these studies that I ever talk about, you can find in the office. That's why the Tuesday nights at 6 o'clock are so important. You can grab that information, you can grab some food, you can get your questions answered. It's a really great time. But also, I know that these 12 minutes aren't enough to help get people get healthy. They help, but they're not enough to continue to push you to be healthy. And that's why we offer our special offer that we offer each and every month with the charity that we're working with. So just a $39 donation from you to the charity of the month gets you, any x-rays we need to take, an exam, the consultation. We use the proprietary health software that we use so we can assess your lifestyle and get you a score from 0 to 100 based off of how you're eating, moving, and thinking. And then we go over everything with you, and we lay out a plan to help you, get out of pain, get rid of aches, headaches, things like that, but also to just be healthier. Because at the end of the day, that's my drive. I want people to be healthier. I want the communities to be healthier. That's why we've taken the cost all the way down to $39, which goes to a charity. Because if I have to eat that cost and I get to give back to my community and also get this information out to you and get people healthier, sign me up. I'm in. I don't mind doing it. So if you or someone needs to get into the office, just give us a call. $39 donation is always there for you for the charity. And then join us on Tuesday nights at 6 too. So I appreciate it, guys. Thank you. And I'll see you next week.